जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय राधा माधव बिहारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। गोपीजना वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। यशोदानंदना व्रजजनरंजना। यशोदानंदना व्रजजनरंजना। यमुनातीरावनचारी। यमुनातीरावनचारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय जय श्री चैतन्य जय नित्यानंद। जय द्वैत चंद्र जय गौर भक्त वृंद। जय जय श्री चैतन्य जय नित्यानंद। जय द्वैत चंद्र जय गौर भक्त वृंद। जय जय श्री चैतन्य जय नित्यानंद। जय द्वैत चंद्र जय गौर भक्त वृंद। We'll be reading from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrta, Madhya Lila, chapter 11, entitled The Beda Kirtan Pastimes, verse number 97. भट्टाचार्य कहे ए मधुर वचन, चैतन्येर सृष्टि एई प्रेम संकीर्तना भट्टाचार्य कहे एई मधुर वचना चैतन्येर सृष्टि एई प्रेम संकीर्तना भट्टाचार्य कहे एई मधुर वचना चैतन्येर सृष्टि एई प्रेम संकीर्तना Translation. Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya replied, "This sweet transcendental sound is a special creation of the Lord known as Prema Sankirtan, congregational chanting in love of Godhead." Text 98. Avatari Chaitanya Kaila Dharma Pracharana Kali Kale Dharma Krishna Nama Sankirtana. In this age of Kali, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has descended to preach the religion of Krishna consciousness. Therefore, the chanting of the holy names of Lord Krishna is the religious principle for this age. Sankirtana yagya tanre kare aradhana Seita sumedha arakali hate jana. Translation. Anyone who worships Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by congregational chanting should be understood to be very intelligent. One who does not do so must be considered a victim of this age and bereft of all intelligence. Purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So it's a long purport and we'll see and talk about it as we are reading it. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimate Radhana Swami Niti Namane. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimate Tamal Krishna Goswami Niti Namane. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namane. Purport. Rascals propose that anyone can invent his own religious process, and this proposition is condemned herein. If one actually wants to become religious, he must take up the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. The real meaning of religion is stated in Srimad Bhagavatam, 6th canto, 3rd chapter, verse 19 to 22. Dharmam tu sakshat bhagavat pranitam navai vidur rishayo napi deva na siddha मुख्य अशूर मनुष्य कुतश्च विद्याधर चारणाध्य स्वयंभुर नारद शंभु कुमार कपिलो मनु प्रहलाद जनको भीष्मो बलिर वयशकीर वयम द्वादशीते विगनिमो धर्माम भगवत भूत भता Guyam Vishuddham Durbodham Yam Gyatvam Mritam Ashnute Etavan Evaloke Smim Pumsham Dharma Parah Smrita Bhakti Yogo Bhagavati Tannama Granadibhi. The purport of these verses is that dharma or religion cannot be manufactured by a human being. Religion is the law or code of the Lord. Consequently, religion cannot be manufactured even by great saintly human beings, Vidyadharas, Charnas, and so on. The principles of dharma, religion, come down in the parampara system, beginning with 12 personalities, namely Lord Brahma, the great saint Narada, Lord Shiva, the four Kumaras, Kapila, the son of Devahuti, Swayambhu Manu, Prahlad Maharaj, King Janaka, grandfather Bhishma, Bali Maharaj, Sukadev Goswami, and Yamaraj. The principles of religion are known to these 12 personalities. I'd like to stop here a little and say something. We have many times heard, the principles remain, but the application can change according to time, place, and circumstance. But sometimes in our practice of Krishna consciousness, everything becomes very ritualistic. We take even the chanting of the holy name as a core. This is one of the items in my to-do list. I woke up, I chanted my 16 rounds, and I'm done for the day. So yes, there will be benefit of chanting the holy name of the Lord. But in order to have the maximum benefit from chanting the holy name of the Lord, it has to be done in a very conscious way. When we chant, is it one of my to-do list items, or I'm really going in to take shelter of the holy name? When I'm chanting, I'm waiting how many more rounds are left, or I'm thinking that when I will finish all my duties and will again come and chant more. So one of the things which we can ask ourselves is, sometimes I tell myself the 17th round, like as soon as we complete the 16 rounds, we have taken vow, not given promise. Vow is one level higher than promise. Vow means Bhishma Pratagya, like we will not break it. What is our consciousness at the end of the 16th round determines, why we were chanting for the last 2 hours. So the 17th round is the round, the 16 rounds are out of duty. We'll do our duty to chant 16 rounds. We should do our duty every day. But the 17th round is the round where we enter into the phase of love. In our life, we do things because of fear. What will happen if I don't wake up? If I don't go to my job? If I don't eat? So there are things which are done out of fear. Better than doing things out of fear is doing things out of duty. That this must be done. I'm not a qualified person to sit here, but it's a duty. There should be Srimad Bhagavatam class, Chaitanya Charitamrta class every morning. I'm not at all qualified to speak on this topic, but it's a duty, it must be performed. And then the third level is when we chant or do things out of love. So 17th round is our, we can say, the factor or the barometer which will decide, if we are chanting out of fear, out of duty, or out of love. And the 12 Mahajans which are mentioned here, they are, it is said Mahajano yena gata sapantha. Because the Vedic literature, when we are reading Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrta, Bhagavad Gita, we may understand, we may read the text, we may understand at a very superficial level, but by following the examples of these Mahajans, we can understand what it really means. A spiritual master, he gives the instructions to his disciples. Srila Prabhupada gave the same instructions to all his disciples. And different disciples, they understood the instructions differently. And only very few disciples are able to understand the heart of the spiritual master. And definitely it's a reward. It cannot be achieved. It is given. When we serve our spiritual master, when we serve the devotees, and if the devotees are pleased, the spiritual master is pleased, then in the transcendental system, we are able to penetrate the superficial layer and go deep and understand the heart. So similarly here, it is said the principles of religion are known to these 12 personalities. And then, because they understand the principle, they know how to apply it. For example, the principle of addition. If we understand the principle, we can understand how much is 3 plus 4, how much is 4 plus 9, how much is 12 plus 99, because we understand the principle. And the other way is, we'll memorize 1 plus 1 is 2, 1 plus 2 is 3, 1 plus 3 is 4. So we will know different circumstances in which that principle is applied. And several times, we see even amongst devotees, there is conflict. Why there is conflict? Because we are trying to apply the principles according to different time, place and circumstances, And we all come from very different backgrounds. And we start justifying that why my opinion is right and why my understanding is correct. And we lose the focus. And sometimes there is another thing which happens. There are different principles which contradict each other. One, for example, taking prasadam. One should take prasadam, as much as possible because it will purify us. But at the same time, we need to be cautious that we are not eating too many sweets. I'm giving example because I'm very weak in avoiding sweets. So, is taking prasadam right or wrong? No, it is right and wrong both. Right because yes, it is Lord's. It is tasted by the Lord and it's prasadam, and it will help me progress in my Krishna consciousness. But if I eat too much sweets, then I may have health issues and I may not be able to serve for a longer duration of time. So there are both are principles, but sometimes one principle is higher than the other principle. Then the higher principle remains the principle and the lower principle becomes a detail. I'm sorry if I confused, but and the highest principle is whatever service we are doing, if it is pleasing to the Lord. Prithu Maharaj, we'll try to understand. He was doing the yagyas, and when he was about to do the 100th yagya, Indra got scared that his position might be taken away. So he started interfering and he did not allow Prithu Maharaj to complete his 100th yagya. And then there were so many exchanges between Indra and Prithu Maharaj. And then the authorities, the Lord and his devotees, they interfered and they told Prithu Maharaj, let Indra do the 100th, don't do the 100th yagya. And he was not doing the yagyas to become Indra. He was not trying to take over someone else's job or service. But he was doing the yagya for the welfare of his kingdom. So there was a conflict. And then when the authorities, they intervened, Prithu Maharaj surrendered. So even though on a superficial level, Indra won, but Prithu Maharaj pleased, and he was blessed by the Lord and his devotees, seeking, how may I please? So this was a short discussion on principles. Dharma refers to the religious principles by which one can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Dharma is very confidential, uncontaminated by any material influence, and very difficult for ordinary men to understand. So always please, without, before making any judgment or conclusion, try to seek guidance from Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. This is my understanding. Do you think this is right? Or could you please give me? So there has to be Dadati Prati Granati. We have to share our heart in confidence. And that's what community is about. It's not that we have to go and announce on WhatsApp or Facebook, but when challenges come, conflicts come, we should go and seek guidance. However, if one actually understands dharma, he immediately becomes liberated and is transferred to the kingdom of God. Bhagavad Dharma, or the principle of religion enunciated by the Parampara system, is the supreme principle of religion. In other words, Dharma refers to the science of Bhakti Yoga, which begins by the novices chanting the holy name of the Lord. Tan Nama Grahanadibhi. Therefore, in this age of Kali, as recommended here in Chaitanya Charitamrta, Kali Kale Dharma, Krishna Nama Sankirtana. The chanting of the holy name of the Lord is the method of religion approved by all Vedic scriptures. In the next text of the Chaitanya Charitamrita quoted from Srimad Bhagavatam 11.5.32, this principle is further stressed. When Srila Prabhupada, he arrived at the Boston Harbor, he composed a poem called Markine Bhagavat Dharma. And the last verse of the poem is Bhakti nahi beda nahi name kuba daro Bhakti Vedanta nama ebe sarthaka koro. Translation: I have no devotion, nor do I have any knowledge, but I have strong faith in the holy name of Krishna. I have been designated as Bhakti Vedant, and now, if you like, you can fulfill the real purport of Bhakti Vedanta. Signed, the most unfortunate, insignificant beggar, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, on the board of the ship Jaladuta. So this is the beginning of our International Society for Krishna Consciousness in America. So one is chanting. Yes, we will chant. But how to chant is a lifelong process. And we can only learn and learn and learn and learn. We can never say, I have understood. Even the most senior devotees, they are always seeking to learn. I have also seen Sachidanand Maharaj. He is joining sometimes the japa retreat being arranged by some apparently new devotees. So he's always seeking to learn. And I personally think he is, along with His Holiness Giriraj Maharaj, Bhurijan Prabhu, they do retreats in Vrindavan. Like, they are exploring and exploring and exploring. And the more deeper they go into the ocean, they found more they find more and more gems. But here Srila Prabhupada, he's giving the basic mood in which we should chant. Lord Chaitanya, he gave Shikshashtakam. And Srila Prabhupada, he is writing, the most unfortunate. If we approach the holy name, I am someone, I know, I am the chosen one, then even though we'll chant the 16 rounds, but the doors of that treasure house are closed. We will not have access. So Prabhupada is not only saying unfortunate, he's also saying insignificant. So we have to see what our mood is. And we cannot feel insignificant just at the time of chanting. Whatever we do for the 22 hours of the day will reflect in our chanting. If for the remaining 22 hours we think we are someone, I am in charge of something and I am something, then the same attitude will come in chanting as well. And the third, Srila Prabhupada, he uses is beggar. We cannot beg, superficially. In different places, in India especially, when we go through trains and we see some genuine people. Right now it has also become like a profession. But imagine if a person who is hungry and has not eaten for a couple of days, the way he is begging, and a person who has a lot in his home but still he is going out and begging, there is a difference. So only a hungry person can beg. So similarly, if we genuinely feel we have nothing and we need it desperately, then we can beg. So tomorrow when we chant, or if we have to chant today, whenever we chant, let's try to meditate on these three factors, that how we are fortunate. Why we are fortunate? Because we have been given a chance to associate with devotees, to chant the holy name. But if we don't take this opportunity seriously, we are unfortunate. Meditate that how insignificant we are. In front of the Lord, and how we are impoverished, we have nothing, and we are begging. Unfortunate, insignificant beggar. And Srila Prabhupada, and also, he brings up in Shikshashtakam, Lord Chaitanya, he says in the third verse, Trinadapi sunichena tarorapi sahishnuna amanina manadena kirtanya sadahari. More humbler than a blade of grass, more tolerant than a tree, giving all respect to others and not expecting any respect. Again, this verse, we have to apply it very maturely. Humility does not mean we think ourselves less. Humility means we think less of ourselves. So that will be another class, if one wants to speak. So there are different verses in Shikshashtakam, but this third verse explains how to chant. Another person, we may think that, our life is challenging. But then we see the Mahajans, because we learn through their example. And one of the Mahajans is Yamraj. And one of the expansion of Yamraj is Vidur. He's the most humble person, most tolerant person in Mahabharata. But yet, he was the minister of Dhritarashtra. And he always gave the right advice to his brother or whosoever asked him. He was the one who raised his voice when Draupadi was being disrobed. He did not sit quiet. So in our life, and in the end, before speaking more about him, in spite of all good intentions, he was asked to leave. Duryodhana, he told Vidur that, you are the son of a kept mistress. If it was my control, I would kill. But for now, please leave. And the only thing you can live with is your breath and nothing else. And then he eventually leaves. And in the end, because he was a well-wisher, he comes back for the welfare of his brother, to awaken him in spirituality. And then he chastises Dhritarashtra again, that you tried to kill the Pandavas and yet you are staying here and eating the grains from their house. You should be ashamed. And he helped Dhritarashtra leave this world as well. So it's not easy how we apply these principles in our day-to-day life. But if we are genuinely seeking the help, the guidance, Lord will arrange. One must have faith. I think there are more verses, but seeing the time duration, I would like to end here. And if there are any corrections or comments, please.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank you so much for the wonderful class. I just wanted to say that every time I hear your class, there is so much honesty in the speech that it makes such powerful, it conveys powerful messages for us who are trying to practice. So please keep giving more classes. Hare Krishna.
Thank you for encouragement. I'm myself struggling, but whatever I learn during my struggles, I'll try to share. Thank you very, very much.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you for very sobering class. So as I was hearing, you bring out the points of how we should be beggars. Then my what do you call it? Rebellious mind is saying, but Krishna consciousness has to be joyfully performed. And if we chant, then Prabhupada is saying, chant and be happy. So there has to be we have to experience that reciprocation which makes us happy. Otherwise, how can we continue? And there has to be some joy that overflows that we share with others. Otherwise, who would be attracted to us just feeling, like totally depressed and sad? So how do we, having that internal mood of Sharanagati, but how is that joy also a steady factor in our Krishna consciousness? The joy that spills over, the joy that we are able to share, and the joy that others are able to taste and say, hey, they have something that I want.
Thank you very much. Yes. So Krishna consciousness is a process of, we can say, the balanced process. In Ayurveda, there is kapha, vata and pitta. Like there are 3 airs within our body and they have to be in balance. Otherwise, we will have health issues. And if we see balance everywhere. Our body temperature cannot be too high or too low. The distance of the earth from the sun has to be balanced. The aeroplane needs to fly. It has to be in perfect balance. We cannot have only one wing. We need both the wings. The bicycle has 2 wheels. And sometimes we need support wheels to balance as well. So Krishna consciousness is a balancing process. And maybe I went too deep on one side and not on the other side. The way it balances is if someone is flying too high, and in scriptures, Indra is he's a devotee of the Lord. But sometimes when he is flying high, Krishna arranges for him to come down. And it is also a hope-giving process. If someone is too down, Krishna consciousness helps to lift the person. And our problem is we are generally on the extremes. Sometimes we'll do things in such a way that we'll create imbalance, and that may disturb our family, our friends, the community. So yes, Krishna consciousness is a process which has to be joyfully performed. And depending on which state, in our life also, our Krishna consciousness journey also is, at least in the initial phases, is up and down, up and down, up and down. So if we are flying too high, we should meditate on being insignificant, being the beggar. But if we are uh, struggling in our practice, then we should look up to the devotees, those who are relishing. And then once, we uh, uh, one day when we will advance, then we will practice Krishna consciousness very steadily. We will not be affected by the turbulences in our life. So Bhakti Vinod Thakur, when he's sing his bhajans, he's saying he's the most fallen. Haridas Thakur, but at the same time, we're very joyful in the association of devotees but what this balancing act it does is it teaches us how to relate with devotees. It teaches us how to face the challenges in our life and so on. So that is why it's a joyful process, but it's not. There is a difference between joy and fun. Tomorrow is Gaur Purnima. I can come and I can enjoy the feast and I can go back. I will make some advancement. But in order to prepare the feast, there are devotees. Our Radha Krishna Prabhu, he is arranging the cut up. But for him to be able to do the cut up, he must work in coordination with his family and with kids. So that balance is very, very important. So what I wanted to say is, it takes sacrifices to perform that service as well. And we will face challenges in our execution of Krishna consciousness. So in spite of challenges, when we try to understand and try to handle the situation maturely, we will make more advancement. So not having fun, but enjoying Krishna consciousness does not mean having party. It is a combination of sacrifices. It is a combination of togetherness while executing the service. And then happiness, seeing the Lord happy, seeing the other devotees happy, is our joy. So I tried to answer the question. But thank you. Thank you very, very much. Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Apologies. We have a question from Mishra Bhagwan Prabhu as well.
No, I think it looks like the class is over.
No, please go ahead.
I was listening to Prabhupada the other day on a lecture on the Bhagavatam, and he said, women, they are generally equipped with the qualities of passion and ignorance, and man may also be, but man can be elevated to the platform of goodness. A woman cannot be. So Rajas Tamas, generally, that is the quality of woman, and man can become to the platform of goodness. Therefore, initiation, Brahminical symbolic representation, is given to the man and not to the woman. So when Srila Prabhupada was speaking this, he had like love and compassion in his voice. It didn't have any pretension of like a debate, or that he was making some kind of point, or that there's anything contradictory or from Srila Prabhupada, there's no conflict or contradiction in anything that he says. He doesn't. It's not a man's point of view, but the Krishna speaking through him. And if devotees, from Prabhupada, there's no contradiction. Everything he says, there's no conflict. He doesn't think that he's saying one thing one place and one thing another. If the devotees thought there was some conflict and they would present it to Prabhupada, he would always dismiss it. Like one time a devotee said, "Oh, Srila Prabhupada, it says here in the Nectar of Devotion that we should not pay our obeisances to anybody in front of the deities. But every time you come in the temple room, we all pay our obeisances to you in front of the deities." So Srila Prabhupada said, "Well, that's just details." Or like another time, they were on the airplane, and Srila Prabhupada was watching the Charlie Chaplin movie. So the devotee came up and said, "Well, Prabhupada, it says here in your books that devotees don't watch movie, they don't go to cinema. But here you are, you're watching the movie." So Srila Prabhupada said, "Well, it's because Charlie Chaplin is the original. He's the Adi comedian. So I'm thinking of Krishna as the original person, and when I'm, so for Prabhupada, it may seem like from, to him it's never a conflict. Everything he says it's not it's some debate. On the receiving end, the way that we see devotees, they sometimes get into issues, and they quote Prabhupada and counter-quote Prabhupada to make a point. And but for Prabhupada, it's not like that. It's not like a counter. It's not a big argument with himself. And I know that Prabhupada's books are the law books of mankind, but at the same time, when devotees act like lawyers and they pull different quotes to defeat one another in some kind of worldwide kangaroo court. So what's the difference between studying Srila Prabhupada's books to create an agenda for in some kind of debate that you're trying to put across your side of the story, as compared to people studying Prabhupada's books like in a Bhakti Shastri class, or a Bhakti Vedanta or a Bhakti Vaibhava class? Is there something, there's that kind of studying, how is it different than the kind of studying where people are studying Prabhupada's books to find a particular something that backs up a point they're trying to make, rather than just studying?
Thank you, Mr. Bhagan Prabhu. What I've heard is like the scriptures and all the Srila Prabhupada commentaries. They are like the cow. And if the milkman or the cowherd boy doesn't milk the cow properly, then instead of milk, the blood will come out. And it takes practice, to be an expert milkman. So similarly, the problem in today's ages, we acquire information by reading Srila Prabhupada books, by listening to the lectures online, by doing, there are so many sources of information. And then for that information to become a realization, we need to serve. We need to do menial service. And then we will be able to understand the purports. Like, we have the information, but we have not digested it. And my understanding is that the discussions or the debate is happening about information. Srila Prabhupada said this. This is information. In Chaitanya Charitamrta, it is said this. This is information. And so on and so forth. But in a particular time, place, and circumstance, before we comment that it should be done like this or it should be done like that, I have to realize that information. Information is at the level of the head. But when we serve with no ulterior motive, we perform menial services without expecting anything in return, then we digest that information. And then it becomes realization of the heart. And then we understand the real principle, and then we can apply to any time, place, and circumstance. So sometimes we see that, senior devotees, those who have been in the movement for a long time, and they may have some apparent argument. And at my immature level, it's better for me to not take sides, because I may not understand the real principle and how to apply in that particular circumstance. But if the goal will be to please Srila Prabhupada, even if though one person's opinion may be taken as right and other person's opinion is not accepted, still both can make advancement by having the right mood of what will please Srila Prabhupada. So our problem is, we try to become doctors without going through the rigorous study and the practical years what it takes to become a doctor. If you have cold, I can give you a medicine. I just need to go to Google and give you a medicine. If you have this, I don't need to, I can do so many research, but it's not so simple. Which medicine needs to be given and how much dose must be given, it is the maturity of the doctor. So similarly, the advanced pure devotee, he can know in your particular, or I'll say in my particular problem, which verse of the scripture applies and how much of the dose is needed. If a person is newly married, then it's not the right verse to tell that person that family is Maya and it's all bondage, source of misery. No, that's immaturity. Similarly, in different time, place, and circumstances, what happens is we don't try to see the scriptures in totality. We try to take out one verse and try to justify what I think is right. It's like there's a bullseye game. And in the bullseye game, the right way is there are circles and you try to hit the center one. But there is another way of doing it. I'll hit it, and then wherever it falls, I'll make circles around it. And I hit a bullseye. So I'll do what I want to do, and then I will find Google and all the references why I am right. So this is a wrong practice. I was listening to one video and like he's a comedian.